This is Paradigms, Pet Parents and Pets, and I am Pam with Perfectly Holistic. And joining me is my amazing friend Deanna Sang from San Francisco. How are you?
Hi everyone.
We're gonna give the algorithm a couple minutes here to kind of log to join in and get everybody streaming with us. So if you are watching, we are broadcasting on Instagram, on Facebook and YouTube. And just know that if you guys are on Instagram, we are not able to see the comments live through the streaming platform, but we're going to try to follow it through the phone if we can. So bear with us if you can't. If we're not answering your questions on Instagram, pop on over to either the YouTube, our Facebook or YouTube platforms, and then we'll be able to see everything.
Hey Pam, I don't see it on Instagram. Is it live on Instagram?
It should be streaming, and I don't know exactly how that all works.
Okay.
And I don't know if it takes a second for it to show up through your phone or how that all works. But I know it says we are streaming through Instagram. So if you guys are able to see it, let us know. If you pop over here and YouTube or Facebook, let us know. Um, I'm not really sure how that all works, to be quite honest with you. Um, so, anyway, so if this is your first time joining us, thank you for being here. And Deanna, you can actually follow comments over to the right side of your screen under comments. So if you're watching with us tonight, drop a comment on the side. Let us know where you're from. And I was also going to encourage our audience tonight to let us know like some of their biggest things that they're struggling with on a continuous basis because it can help identify where their paradigm is. What do you think?
Yes. Wait, sorry. I was like trying to join the comments.
It's all
So can you repeat that?
Yeah, okay. So I want to get people's feedback as we're going through the show tonight. Drop a comment over on the side and let us know what area you tend to struggle with the most in your world. Maybe it's for your own self, or if it's your pets, your cats. If there's something that seems to be like a constant theme in your life, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why that is and what you can do about it. So,
Yeah, I like that because sometimes it's easier to have a real life example that
yeah,
we can discuss.
yes. And we had a great conversation last night in prep for the show, and it's really funny how the universe works because whenever we're learning how to present material or content, do you find, Anna, that it seems like we have to learn the lessons first in a
Yes.
big way. And so I know for both of us, our paradigms have been rocked and shifted, like challenged this in these last few weeks. And it's been really challenging. It's been emotional. It's been hard. So we're here to kind of walk everyone through this. We're all together. We're all learning as we go. I have in no way mastered this paradigm shift that I am trying to master and go through. It takes a while to change a paradigm. Um, but that said, we just have to keep keeping on. You just have to keep pushing forward. So let's talk about, first of all, what is paradigm? If you weren't here on our first show back in May, we kind of took a deep dive into exactly what paradigms are and how they shape our lives subconsciously and we don't even know about them. I remember I was talking to one client a while back and I mentioned the word paradigm and she's like, what is a paradigm? It's not even in the vocabulary of a lot of people, but they are so controlling of every aspect of our life and we don't even realize it. So Deanna, start with your definition of what a paradigm is.
So it I think the term came from Bob Proctor, right, originally. I forget what, you could probably tell everyone what his definition.
He actually learned it from somebody else, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he kind of took this and ran with it in terms of teaching what paradigms are and how to shift them. So, yeah.
I think so. I think of it as just how we're programmed and conditioned since birth. So everything that our brain and our mind controls, like all of our thoughts, beliefs, words, assumptions, expectations, our fears, insecurities, kind of goes on how we react to things, all the patterns in our lives, and how we perceive ourselves and others in the world. I feel like all of that is shaped or molded and defined in during childhood, and as we grow up, it just carries over into our adulthood. But we're just totally unaware of it, kind of, right?
Right. So paradigms are basically programmed habits, beliefs, thoughts. They control probably 95% of our behavior, our choices, our decisions, our beliefs, our habits, and
Emotions and feelings.
emotions, all of that. Yeah. And it's enlightening if you take a look back to how you were raised, and it goes back even earlier than your childhood. Like, your ideas and belief systems are like programmed onto your genes, and this is stuff that's passed down for generations. So you can blame it on your ancestors in some aspects, right? But a lot of it is stuff that you learned, like habits that you learned when you were under 7 years old, because the subconscious mind is wide open and you have no ability to reason, to critically assess anything when you're that young. So whatever is in your environment is just being dropped in, and that's what you're learning. So you're learning how to talk, how to walk, how to feed yourself, how to dress yourself. You're learning about family and family environments, like what you think is normal. What was your norm growing up? Did you live in poverty? Did you live in opulence? Did your parents, were they married? Were they divorced? What kind of environment did you get raised in? Was there a lot of love in your family, or was there a lot of bitterness and, abuse and stuff like that? I mean, you could just take a survey and just ask people, how were you raised? Where did you go to school? Where did you get your ideas about family and values and loving, marriage, faith? What kind of environment were you raised? Were you raised in a church? All these different things, they create these habits, this paradigm that directs our life and it really controls almost all of our behavior. Not all of it, but almost all of it, if we're not consciously aware.
Yes. And it's our parents, it's teachers, our peers growing up, our classmates, our friends, television, Walt Disney,
Yes.
the movies and books and the media and the news and coaches and, goes on and on.
Yeah.
But they all help influence our beliefs and what we think of everything and how we respond and react and behave and perceive everything.
Right. So to give you guys a pet example, how many of you were raised where pets were part of the family and they were inside? Like we let them inside our homes. They slept with us in our beds, versus some families viewed pets more as property, and they never came in the house. They were just treated as animals and left outside, not given a whole lot of care, you know. So those are two different, totally different paradigms on how people view pets, you know. Like a lot of people watching this show would consider themselves a pet parent or a guardian, um, you know, because we treat our pets like family, and we love them dearly, and we would do anything for them. Um, and that level of care goes back to how we were trained younger, when we were younger, on how to care for pets and animals. So um, it's quite a dichotomy when you see, you know, some people, I can't relate to them as well because, you know, they're just like, ah, it's just a cat, it's just a dog, you know. They have, you know, they don't care for them. They live outside. They never feed them raw, you know, good food, and, you know, just all those things. And so it's I don't relate to them because I see my
Yeah.
cats as my kids. You know, I don't have human children. They are my children. So, and I know Bronson Ragdoll, she says the same thing. We always had our pets inside and loved. And her grandfather worked for the ASPCA, so we had all different pets. Oh, I love that. That's why you attract the cats and dogs that, and the bunny. She has a bunny, I think.
Oh, I have a bunny too.
Deanna's got a bunny. Um, Mercedes says, "Thank you for hosting this. I'm constantly overwhelmed and would love a lot more support than I currently have." Okay, we'll get into that. Um, yeah, I'm not sure where the stream is on Instagram, but thank you for letting us know. It's supposed to be streaming. It says it is. Um, and she says, "My cats and dogs slept with me my entire life." So see, that's kind of our audience. We're like, there are babies, there are children. We care for them so deeply, versus, you know, treating them like just generic farm animal or whatever that lives outside. Um, so yeah, it's really eye-opening when you start to really sit down and think about what kind of paradigms that you have. And this is a good exercise for you guys. So whether you're watching live or, yeah, Deanna, your frame is frozen for some reason, but your volume is okay. Um,
Hmm.
if you want to do some deep dives just on your own exploration, take a pen and a journal and just sit down and think about your framework, your point of views, um, how you've always done things in a certain way, whether that's how you raise your kids, whether that's how you get dressed every morning, um, how you deal with like holiday gatherings, for example. Did you celebrate holidays and what did that look like for you? Some people it was a very, very big deal, and other people it's like, yeah, it's just another day. So those are the kinds of like rituals and patterns and behaviors that we kind of bring forward into our lives and our families. Um, so just start to think about, you know, why do I view things a certain way? Why do I why do I have the belief of a certain situation to be a certain way? Deanna, can you give us any other examples?
Um, it's just like, so I grew up where my mom, she wouldn't let our golden retriever in the house, and it just devastated me. And I was so glad when she ran away, only because I'm sure someone else, found her and adopted her and gave her a good home.
Mhm.
It was on 4th of July, so she jumped the
Mm,
fence.
scared.
But looking back, I'm so glad because she was in the backyard or in the garage, and that's just not a good life for a golden retriever. Even though
Right.
I spent a lot of time with her playing like all the time, it just to me didn't feel like enough.
Mhm.
And the bunny rabbit that I had when I was growing up stayed in a hutch in the backyard. We did everything wrong because back then we didn't have the internet, so I didn't know how to take care of a rabbit. So we did literally the opposite of everything we were supposed to do. And so now I'm making up for it because I have a lot of guilt. But luckily my parents didn't influence my beliefs around pets or, fur babies.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have the same beliefs. But I've just noticed that a lot of my clients lately have similar symptoms or conditions that their fur baby has, or in the same vicinity, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate saying this because I don't want anyone to feel bad if their fur baby is sick or anything, but I feel like they take on the same paradigms that we do because they're telepathic. They have more senses than we do beyond our 5 normal senses, because they're so energetic. We don't even know what senses they have. But so it's my belief that they experience everything that we do, everything, like our thoughts, our emotions, physically, everything. And I feel like that's why their lives are so short, because they're vibrating a lot higher and absorb everything. And they're also, I kind of believe there are little spirit guides and guardian angels on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're here to help teach us lessons and reflect things back at us and help us evolve and become better and make changes in our lives for our own good, but also for theirs. So I feel like the faster we can heal ourselves and really take a hard look in the mirror, and sometimes they mirror stuff back at us.
Mm-hmm.
The faster we can heal ourselves and resolve our own issues, unfortunately, that probably date back to childhood, the faster we can heal our pets.
Mm-hmm.
And so shifting the pattern, our belief system, and all of our patterns and habits and emotions and feelings are huge. The faster that we can go within and analyze all of that, dissect it, learn what we're supposed to, receive the messages, and truly, forgive or let things go and
Mm-hmm.
release them, then our symptoms and our physical conditions will heal, and also I think theirs will as well.
Yes, and I'm going to interject one thing here. If you guys did not watch the radio show this month, Dr. Barry Sands and I talked about the science of shared diseases with our pets, and it's all about the quantum entanglement. That's why. So there's real science based in that. So after you watch this, go watch the radio show from this month, just like 10 days ago. It was fascinating, and she's amazing. Um, so yeah, let's talk about some of the type of paradigms that I think pet parents get stuck in the rut in. Um, and whether this resonates with you or there a variation of this, it's totally okay. But one of the things that I truly believe, after I have learned so much about the quantum field and quantum entanglement and all of the science that connects everything and everyone, I feel that if you look back to all the pets that you're adopting, rescuing, whatever, there can be a pattern a lot of times. Like they all have a similar disease, or they all have similar types of behavior problems. Um, like I truly believe that we can rescue healthy, happy pets if that is the type of energy we're putting out. And I may be getting ahead of myself, but I want that for everybody. I don't want people to be afraid of adopting or rescuing a pet just because they think they're going to be sick and have all these health conditions and all of that, because Unfortunately, I think that happens a lot. Their heart is exploding with love for this pet that they saw, and they think, "Okay, I've got to go get that pet. I want to make it part of my family." And they bring it home, from the shelter or whatever, and it just becomes a money pit. It's a money pit of problems. Maybe that pet didn't start out so good. So I want better outcomes. I want different outcomes for pet parents, and I know that that is possible, but I think we have to start with that framework on some level. Um, and I'm going to read a quote from Bob Proctor that says, "The only things you can attract to you are those things that are in harmonious vibration with you." Let me read that again. "The only things you can attract to you are those things that are in harmonious vibration with you." Think about that on a deep level. It can be mind blowing. And it's in that perspective I wanted to talk about the paradigms and pets. So think about the type of pets that you are attracting and realize that that is the energy somehow in the field that you are putting out subconsciously. You don't even know this. And so that's the kind of energy you're getting back.
So I agree with that, because in the past I had heard that that's also true for our significant others and people that we date, or people who are attracted to us, or
Yes.
who we're attracted to. So that makes sense that it would happen with fur babies as well.
Yeah. And think about the job, like the boss, the coworkers, um, situations, like even just going through daily life, right? Like if you have to get up every day and you have to commute and you are stuck in traffic, and it's just like this is part of your program, it's like you get up and I sit in traffic, you just like that's just the way it is. He would say that's because that's what you're attracting. That's what the energy is you're putting out into the field. So therefore that's the result you're getting. And it's interesting. So I've been playing with this concept a little bit in the mornings when I get up and I go drive 8 miles down the road to the gym. I've been shifting my thought and expectation to the road is going to be 70 miles an hour and everyone's going to be flowing along nicely. And guess what? They are. Now, if I come to the expectation that, man, it's going to be so much traffic, and it's going to take me longer to get there because it's 8:30 in the morning or whatever it is, and that's the expectation. So that's like the energy you're putting out there into your field. So guess what? You get onto the freeway and it's like 30 miles an hour and everyone's just direct, stop, start, stop, start. I just found it fascinating. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, and I started changing my energy to change the situation I was in. So similar to your example about traffic,
Mm-hmm.
I used to get road rage, and so well, not big road rage, not major road rage, but I'd get annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I started saying, let's say, call them affirmations or something, let's say, okay, for example, I'd be in the fast lane and someone was going 50 miles an hour, holding everyone up because we couldn't get around him because there's traffic in the other lanes. And so in the past, I would probably get really angry and probably want to honk at him or something, And
Mm-hmm.
instead, I started saying, I started practicing gratitude. So I said, I'm grateful we're moving because it could be worse. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful it's not raining because people don't know how to drive in the rain. I'm grateful
Right.
we're not at a dead stop. I'm grateful I have a car. I'm grateful I have gas. I'm grateful I can get from point A to point B. I'm grateful I'm not in a hurry. And I kept saying anything I could think of related to the situation I was in. And after about 45 seconds, he moved over. And this happens every single time I'm annoyed with something.
Oh my.
So if there's a neighbor who's blasting their music, or this one example, they were throwing a party at night, and I'm used to a quiet home because I grew up in a one-story house. I don't have any siblings, and my parents are pretty quiet, and so
Mhm.
that's why noises bother me more than other people. So if there's someone above me, living above me, making all kinds of noise, it bothers me. Or actually, anyway, above me or next to me. But
Right?
I just started saying, I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful I have ears. I'm grateful for my hearing, because someone who's
Mhm.
deaf, if I was deaf and all of a sudden I heard this music and these people, I would be ecstatic. And I'm grateful my walls are thick, because other places in San Francisco have really thin walls, and I kept saying more and more affirmations, or practicing gratitude. And all of a sudden, I didn't hear anything, and I know that the party didn't stop because I would be able to hear if they left, because the
Yeah.
door would slam shut next to me. And so just all of a sudden, it just got quiet, like no one was there. And I think the universe or my spirit guides or angels, it's like they reward you for turning changing your energy and changing your thoughts and
Mhm.
being grateful, and just having a different perspective. And I think they just tune stuff out of my ears. They literally block out noise from my ears. And this happens every single time. And it only takes about anywhere from 45 seconds to 3 minutes.
Wow.
So if anyone gets upset or annoyed with anything, I highly recommend this, because I've told I think I posted it on Instagram a while back, but my mom and friends and people that I've mentioned this to, a lot of them have said that it works.
Mhm.
But so try it.
I love that so much, and if you guys are watching, has anybody done that before? If so, drop us a comment over here. Um, I love that. That is so awesome. And it does. I think when we change our energy, it affects everything around us because of that quantum field again. And therefore, that outcome changes. It changes. I mean, it just is. It can't remain the same.
Right.
We're changed. So if we don't change, it's not going to change. But I think that's so powerful because we have the power to change our decision, to change our thoughts, to change our beliefs, our attitudes. Um, and that has a ripple effect to everything in the field and it comes back.
Yes. And another time they threw a party, I did the same thing, and all of a sudden they all left. I heard them leaving one by one. The door kept slamming.
Yeah.
And so it either way, it just stopped. The noise went
That's
away,
amazing.
and I was so grateful.
Yes, yes, that is so powerful. So I have a question for Mercedes since she was so sweet to drop a comment over here and she says I'm constantly overwhelmed. I would say, do you know what makes you overwhelmed? Is and you don't have to answer. I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas for you to think about. So identify what makes you feel overwhelmed. Um, is it people? Is it circumstances? Is it the job? Is it, you know, something in your household that makes you feel overwhelmed? So I think we have to first develop an awareness. As Dan and I were talking before the show, it's about developing first the awareness. So instead of just kind of going through the motions and realizing that you're feeling overwhelmed, and here's what it is. When we say, I am overwhelmed, we are taking that on. We are taking that energy. It has become a personality trait, it has become a habit. And I'll give you another example. People who talk about their cancer, this is, well, my cancer, and I always interrupt them and I said, don't ever say it's your cancer unless you want it, because you are taking it, you are accepting it, and you're identifying it as yours. So we have to be careful of how we speak and what we say, how we say
Yes.
things, because if you don't want to be that overwhelmed person, you have to start by saying, why am I feeling overwhelmed? And Bob Proctor would say, typically overwhelm can be like an anxiety, which is suppressed emotion, um, and it's a lack of understanding. So if we can stop and realize, okay, why am I feeling like this, or why am I allowing myself to feel like this? Sometimes it's just a matter of studying. If it's a certain, job situation or whatever, it's about learning how to do it better or how to do things differently, to
And,
improve your performance and things like that. Go ahead.
and also setting boundaries, because a lot of my clients, and including myself, grew up being yes people and pleasers.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're a pleaser, it's hard to say no. So you take on more and more stuff and you get overwhelmed and stressed
Yeah.
out and overloaded. And so it might be a lesson to just set more healthy boundaries and know your limits and stand up for yourself, or
Yeah.
communicate it to whoever's giving you more,
Mm.
or say no, to a friend or family member or something. But we have to draw a line somewhere, and know our own limitations so that we don't get depleted. And because all of those emotions can manifest into physical issue, like
Mm.
aches and pain, or illnesses and diseases. Like everyone who gets COVID and the flu, it's basically the body telling them you need to relax and take a break, sleep, rest, recharge,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's just too much, and or too much toxicity. And then so that's why people cough and sneeze and they're sweating, with a
Mm-hmm.
fever, because their body is trying to get all the toxic energy out of their system.
Mm-hmm. The body is designed to heal itself, so it has to take steps in order to release stuff. Um, so I love how you use that as an example, because that's a great one. Um, and I was going somewhere with that idea. She says, I'm known for being a good boundary setter, but it's also a very interesting topic I've never thought about. I'm looking forward to exploring. That's awesome. Um, Something you said, I was thinking, hang on, just went over my head. Um,
Well,
Keep going.
being,
I'll think about it.
yeah, being a yes person or a pleaser,
Yes.
and you may not be, but for those out there who are, that's how we were conditioned to be like that. That's part of our paradigm, and that's
Mm-hmm.
part of how we grew up and we were raised, or we became like that to either protect ourselves, or because maybe we had parents who would get mad at us or hit us, or whatever it might be, if we didn't do what they said. So then we learned to do whatever people told us to do, and not say no, and not let anyone down, and not disappoint anyone,
Mm-hmm.
or stand up for ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So I always ask the question, why? Like, why do I feel like that? Why am I angry? Why am I overwhelmed? Why am I frustrated? Why am I triggered? And then, I'll come up with, because a lot of times I feel disrespected, or like people aren't very considerate, and they are self-absorbed or something like that. And then it's like, okay, why does that bother me? Because that might not bother other people as much, but it's a real trigger for me. So I'm like, okay, why are people who are disrespectful, why does that trigger me so much? So you keep kind of asking why. And for me, it always goes back to my mom. But because you say, okay, did it happen? When was the last time you felt like that? Did you used to feel like that when you were younger, or when did you notice those emotions in the past? And that can usually goes way back to the mom or your dad or something.
Right. It could be something that was modeled to you, like especially girls, if they saw their mother always pleasing and saying, just being very agreeable all the time to whatever dad said, and never would, have her own opinion or whatever. They were just more of a pleaser and always serving others. It's sometimes it's just what we saw, and it was modeled. So that's what kids learn a lot of times. And Mercedes says, "Oh, you just hit on it." I don't know exactly what you said, but she's like, "Oh, she had one of those aha moments." I love that so much. She says, "I used to be a people pleaser, but unfortunately, absolutely terrible at people pleasing now." I love that. I remember what I was going to say a while ago. I said, whenever you feel like you're being triggered or overwhelmed, just sit with it. Or like if someone is asking you, it's so easy to say yes all the time, like you were saying. But if something in your spirit just like, ugh, I don't really want to go to that thing, or I don't really want to go see that person, or I was just going to say, honor that. That is your intuition trying to tell you that not a good thing, and it's okay to say no. And it's okay to just put some distance between some of those people that suck the energy out of you. Put some really good, healthy distance between them, and don't spend time with them. If your intuition if that's your first, notion and like feeling when something comes into your field or an opportunity or whatever, that's a sign. That's what you pay attention to. She says it was the disrespect part and the exhaustion that comes with it. Yeah, absolutely. So the cool thing is we can make the decision to stay in those circles where there's disrespect, or we can remove ourselves, and I think, Deanna, you were talking about that last night.
Yes, I've been cleaning house in the friend department. So there are a lot of people who I realized were very self-absorbed. They wanted to talk at me and vent or, whatever for hours and hours. And it used to drive me insane. I could be married, I'm single, by the way, but I could be married with a child and they wouldn't even know because they never bothered to even ask me how I am. But that was very triggering. But I also tried to take responsibility as well and set better boundaries. So instead of letting someone talk my ear off for 4 hours, I'm only going to give them maybe 30 minutes, and and now I actually sometimes tactfully communicate how I feel because of, someone's talking, if it's just like a one-way friendship, it just adds zero value to my life. Of course, I want to hear about my friends' problems and help them, but if it's just one way, it's not friendship.
Right.
So I have to honor how I'm feeling and go with my intuition and my gut. And by putting distance between me and these other people, I feel so much lighter and freer and happier, and I'm not losing anything. And it's making room and space for real friends to show up and opening hopefully new doors. But I don't see it as a loss anymore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm kind of going to circle back to the pet side here. I know a lot of people that I've talked to over the years would say, like, they would send me an email or we'd be in a conversation or, social media or whatever. And they're like, I had to take my cat to the vet and the vet wanted to do ABC, and do all these things. And I didn't feel good about it, but I gave in, you know, and now I'm regretting it because my cat is sick or my cat is worse or there's, gone downhill or whatever the case might be. And I want those are great teachable moments for a paradigm. Again, it goes back to maybe you didn't have all the answers, you didn't have enough information, but your gut was trying to tell you, not a good choice, and it's okay to say, I want to go home and do some research on that before I make that decision, because then you can come to a place where you're not just handing over your will without knowledge, and I think that's what we have been taught, even from the pet parent side. We're walking into a clinic, for example, and you have a vet who with the white doctor's coat on who went to school for God knows how many years. So we just assume that they have all the answers and that whatever they say is the best. And I started questioning that many years ago. Not a popular thing to do back then. I think it's probably a little bit more common now, but again, it goes back to the paradigm that you were brought up in, where was it okay to ask questions and not necessarily challenge authority disrespectfully, but just saying, I don't know about that, and I don't feel comfortable with that, and it's about finding that power to say, not today. I don't, there's something right. I don't feel right about that. That doesn't sit well. I really want to go home and read and study a little bit more and do some more research before I make any kind of decision regarding whatever they're deciding or, suggesting. And that's what a lot of people were taught in their paradigms growing up, because they just would, it's in the healthcare system as well. We go into a doctor's office and we just never ask questions. We just, they're like, oh, here's this medication. And we're like, okay. And I think of my dad at some point before he passed, he was on 17 different medications. 17. I mean, it was stupid, because this medication had a side effect and we have to take this medication to offset the side effect. But it was just a cascade of problems. And when my mom and my sister, who were involved in a lot of his care, were going through all of that, we're like, why is he on so much medication? And we have to start asking questions, and the hell with whose feelings we might hurt. We're changing a paradigm, and I want to empower people to don't be afraid to step out of the paradigm that you were programmed into and start asking questions. And it's not out of disrespect, it's so that you can understand. And I think, again, going back to what Bob Proctor says, when you have understanding and you have knowledge, you are better informed and you can make your own decisions and you can make better decisions. So it starts with just being aware, like you were sharing, what those triggers are and the situation that we're in. So any thoughts on that?
I think it's really important to be discerning. So we were taught to listen to the doctors and the veterinarians, and don't get me wrong, I love them and thank God for them. But I do believe in a combination of Western medicine and alternative. And sometimes they only know what they're stuck in their own paradigm. They only know what they were trained in.
Yep.
So they only believe that, and they think that's all there is. So they need to also shift their paradigm and belief system and be a little bit more open-minded to alternative healing methods. But it's hard. But I hate the side effects of all the drugs out there, or the antibiotics, or the whatever. I know some of that helps, obviously, sometimes.
In
But
certain cases, it's necessary, but
yes,
oftentimes it's not.
yes. So like those commercials you see on TV, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily for pets, but it's, take this drug for this cancer or whatever. And they're like, but here are the side effects. By the way, you might die. That could be one side effect. But they have all these side effects. I'm like, why would anyone
Yeah.
take that chance?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're putting it out there. I mean, obviously, if the side effects aren't that bad, can't hurt to try it. But if one of them is, I don't know, death, maybe we need to like do more research.
Right, right. Bronson Ragdoll says it's all about our pets. I've always questioned my vet. At one point, she told me to get off the internet. That will never happen. Good for you. Good for you. Mercedes says, I step out of program paradigms all the time, especially with the conventional human and animal medical community. I always trust my gut with medical decisions for me and my fur babies. Bravo to you. That's awesome. Yes. So if you're doing that already in these situations, then you can certainly do it in your own personal overwhelm experience. I think it goes back to just sitting with that type of feeling and asking yourself, where is this coming from? And why am I letting myself feel this way? And that can be very insightful. It can be very eye-opening when we can be honest with ourselves and go, why is this triggering me? And it's not like you have to have all the answers, but just like we said, just start with that awareness. And Deanna, I want you to share your idea that you had earlier when we were doing pre-show. Is like, what can you do in that moment? Let's say you're like, realize you're triggered, you're starting to get upset, you feel your anxiety in your chest, building and or anger, and you're just like, okay, what do I do? So what would your advice be?
Well, now anytime I have a negative emotion, I kind of get excited because it's not the norm. Whereas the first 38 years of my life, I was moody and I experienced every emotion all the time, up and down, sideways and diagonally. And now I've learned how to figure out where my emotions are coming from. And that no one told me this, but I think every negative emotion is an issue, usually from childhood. But no one told me that. So I just thought, oh, I'm just moody, or I'm emotional, or I have, whatever. And I just would go through it all. And it was so difficult, right? So now I'm more aware, self-aware, and conscious anytime a negative emotion pops up. So I take a minute to pause and think about it. I'm like, okay, why is this making me angry? Or why is this making me sad? Or why is this making me feel guilty? Or why, any type of negative emotion. And I kind of play therapist with myself. And from there, I just kind of like analyze it. And I noticed it's something from childhood, usually my mom. For a lot of people, it's their mom or their dad or their siblings or someone. Or I notice I used to be like this person. I either used to say something that they're saying to me, doing what they're doing, or reacting how they're reacting. But I can see my old self in them. And that's very triggering because I'm not like that anymore. And when I can do that, or if anyone can do that, and just see yourself in others, or I might still do the things that are annoying me that they're doing or saying. Either way, I can either change that in myself or have grace for them that, I'm more compassionate and empathetic because I used to be like that, but I'm not anymore. So then I can say, okay, they just haven't learned how to be better than that. And they're on their own path, their own journey. They just haven't gotten there yet. So I'm going to release them, let them go, figure it out on their own. and not be mad at them because I understand, because I used to be like that or say that or do, you know what I mean? And that helps me forgive and let them go. And then I don't even think about it anymore. So then I'm not mad anymore. Or I can make the changes that I do see in them, that maybe they're reflecting something back at me. So I can make my own changes, even if they're not. And that just helps to let the negative emotion go. Does that help?
Yes, and I also we also talked about how just switching that mental energy to gratitude. Like
Yes.
we were talking about earlier, like, okay, I realize I'm being triggered by this person, situation, whatever. I've got to shift it. Like the minute you become aware, you shift. You like, and I say this out loud. I go, cancel, clear, cancel, clear. I don't mean that. No. Let me think of the opposite. Let me shift my mind into something that makes me happy, that makes me feel grateful, that changes my vibration. Because when we are in that negative energy, our vibration is dropping, 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 dropping. So, whatever it takes for you to shift in that moment and think of something that makes you high vibe, happy, joyful, full of gratitude. And believe me, there's so much we can come up with every day to be grateful for. So that's going to be one of my takeaways for you guys tonight. And just your homework. I have a homework assignment for you, and Deanna has a homework assignment for y'all. But I want to say every day, start to shift your energy, to shift your paradigms from whatever it is. If you don't want that in your life, whatever that is, shift it. And one of the most powerful things you can do is start to do daily gratitude. Get you a journal and just put at the top of the page, daily gratitude with the date. And then 10 things you are so grateful for, honestly, like from your heart. And just as you write out those 10 things every day, I want you to feel it. And I want your heart to feel like it is going to explode with joy and gratitude and love, because that will shift and minimize, diminish, alleviate all the negative stuff, energy that you were just in. So, love daily gratitude, but even like gratitude in the moment. Um, I shared this on the radio show last week. Um, just when someone at the gym just starts to irritate me, annoy me, for whatever reason, um, I was paying attention to the fact that I was getting annoyed, and I'm like, no, 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 this is not a good vibe. I need to shift my attitude. And I shifted immediately, and I thought about a very, very happy moment that morning where I was literally sitting at the breakfast table with Breeze in my arms, like like a cradle, and my arms upside down. And she was just giving me the sweetest eyes and purring like a motorboat. And we were just having one of those moments where our hearts are connected. And I was overwhelmed with just love for her in that moment. So that is immediately what I shifted to when I was having that negative Nelly moment in my head about someone at the gym. And it immediately diffused that whole energy, and they didn't bother me anymore. So it's funny how that works. So try that. Just experiment with finding something that brings you joy and the highest sense of gratitude and emotion, like happy emotion, when you feel yourself going in a very opposite direction.
I love that.
It works.
I think another helpful tip would be just catching your negative thoughts. So I just talked about negative emotions, but negative thoughts as well. Because some of my clients recently have a negative loop playing in their head.
Mhm.
And, they hear their parents saying, you're not good enough, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, you're not going to be successful, whatever it might be. And they're not, sometimes we're not conscious of that playing in our head, or in the in our subconscious. But if you catch it, just start saying the opposite and telling yourself, what your parents should have been saying to you. So basically positive affirmations. And just keep catching the negative thoughts and the negative emotions. And even if you have like physical pain, if you feel the pain, be aware that you're thinking about it and feeling it. And right in that moment, kind of like Pam said, just immediately say the opposite. So like if your knee hurts or your foot or your back or shoulder, whatever, just start saying my neck and my back are healed, healthy, and whole. I am flexible and bendable and limber. I feel relieved and soothed and at ease and relaxed. Anything, whatever it is that you want to feel, focus on what you want and not what you don't want. So even though it's hard to not focus on the pain or not focus on the negative emotion or the negative thought, you have to actually consciously and intentionally change it.
Mm-hmm.
To change all the energies, because that changes all the energy too, and everything's energy. So we change the energy through our thoughts, emotions, and feelings and beliefs, and basically the whole paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just be prepared for it to take a little while, because it can take a while to change your paradigms. These are programs.
Yes.
Now they're hardwired chemically into your body. It's like when you pick up your phone to dial somebody back in the day when we had to dial, instead of just pushing a button. Yeah, and you don't really know the person's phone number, but your body, you just start dialing anyway. It's because you've done it so many times that your body already knows how, and it knows the number and the person that it goes to, and you just do it automatically without thinking about it. It's kind of like driving, it's so programmed into us. Driving is, we don't even think about it, these are hardwired into, it's like hardwired software. So we have to undo all the hardwiring and replace it with a different set of hardwires. And so it can take a little bit of time. But I think the key is, and again, I have not mastered this myself for my own paradigm, and I'm trying to work on one about abundance and money and how I view money and prosperity and all of that, because it hasn't been favorable for me lately. And it's very challenging as an entrepreneur. You find yourself stuck in some old paradigms and you're like, oh my gosh, where did these thoughts come from? And it's, go back 50 years and whatever I grew up in and all of that. So it takes a while to go unwind stuff, but it can be done. And then once it's changed forever, because you've put in new hardware. You just have to get rid of the old hardware and replace it with a new program, basically.
Yeah, it's all about consistency and repeating something over and over and over. And,
Yes.
and because it took years for us to get programmed.
Yep.
And so we have to establish a new normal and a new pattern and a new way of thinking and feeling and responding and reacting, and right.
Yes, 100%. And I will share Barbara's comment. She goes, my son is a physician, and he called me after the first week in medical school and asked me if I knew who wrote the curriculum for medical school. I was shocked when he said the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Today that would not be so shocking. That would just,
right.
well, that's par for the course, but go back 20 years ago, it's like, what?
Same with, so like dieting too, like we've been told we
Yeah.
need a certain amount of vitamin C and dairy and meat and vegetables and fruit and da, 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 da. Well, the people who came up with those numbers and percentages or whatever are the ones who are selling the vitamins or the produce or the whatever. You know what I mean? So
They made the food pyramid. It was the dietary whatever association influenced by all the big food companies.
yes.
It's true. It's a fact. Go check it out. Um, yeah. So, guys, I hope this was enlightening. And I'm going to leave you again with Bob Proctor's quote because it's so important when we're changing paradigms. Is first of all, you have to be aware that you're using a paradigm. Um, but again, we can look at our results. We can look at our situations. Are we always finding ourselves in the same type of situations, relationships, problems? Is it money problems? Is it relationship problems? Is it whatever it might be that you find yourself repeating over and over and over again? That's a paradigm you're stuck in, belief systems, whatever. Look at the results. And if you don't like them, know that you can change them, but they're not going to change until we change our energy. So again, I love this quote so much. I need to put it on a big banner and put it in my office. The only things that you can attract to you are those things that are in harmonious vibration with you. So we change our vibration, we change our reality. So any last thoughts, Deanna?
I think it's going to be a lifelong process. So we just have to be, more and more people are becoming more aware and conscious of all of this stuff. And through Dolores Cannon's work, I've also learned that our fifth and sixth DNA strands are connecting in a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's to help us become more aware and conscious of more things, to help us ascend and evolve and
Nice.
Tap into our clair senses and all the
Mm-hmm.
all of our natural gifts
Mm-hmm.
and abilities
Mm-hmm.
and our intuition.
Yes. Yes, that's amazing.
But I do think it's just going to be an ongoing process, probably for the rest of our lives. But it gets so much easier then when you start getting the negative stuff out of the way. It becomes a lot more fun to manifest because you're starting to manifest more good, positive things that we actually want instead of manifesting with our negative emotions and thoughts.
Yeah.
Unconsciously.
And creating the paradigm that serves you, So it is about great, loving, harmonious relationships that are in your life. And it is about prosperity and abundance and having more than enough money all the time for everything you want and need. It's about creating those kinds of paradigms that serve us versus the ones that don't, right? So I think it's it's a fascinating topic. If you want to deep dive a little bit more, look into Bob Proctor. He has a book on, it's called Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. The Proctor Gallagher Institute has a YouTube channel and they play tons of his videos on this. So you can catch those as well. Deanna, any final recommendations for?
Yes.
Yes.
So my favorite is Dr. Joe Dispenza. So all of his books are good. He's all over YouTube. People
Yes.
interview him all the time. He has like 1 million testimonials on his website regarding his meditations and his retreats. And I went to 2 of his retreats and they were just magical. But he's my personal favorite.
I love him. I want to go to one of his retreats.
Love it.
He's amazing, amazing. So, well, thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Share this with anybody that you feel would benefit from, just learning about what this is all about so that they can start creating the kinds of life that they want for them and their pets. Because remember, we are all connected through this quantum field called entanglement. So, we change our paradigms, it's going to benefit them as well. So, it's really, really awesome. So, we're just here to support you and your pets. And we love you so much. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we will be back in a few more weeks and we'll do another deep dive on the topic. So thanks everybody. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye, you guys.
Thanks. Bye.